email security, we were discussing the various aspects of security. The various aspects of security we were discussing. We discussed about privacy, the privacy aspect, uh, where we discussed the different types of privacy, end-to-end and privacy with the distribution list explorers. Then we discussed about authentication based on various aspects, public key, secret key, and distribution list. Then we also looked into the concept of message integrity. Okay, so today we will start with the non-repudiation. Okay, so this is a terminology which I had been telling in various classes. Do you remember what repudiation is all about, or what is repudiation? What is repudiation? Repudiation means the act of denying that you have sent a particular message. Okay, so if a particular email system or a message system is providing for non-repudiation, so that means in case, let's take a same example, or Alice and Bob. Okay, so suppose Alice is sending a message to Bob. Okay, so Alice cannot later deny that she has sent the message. Okay, so Bob can prove to a third party that Alice indeed has sent the message. Okay, so that is what is repudiation and repudiation all about, or non-repudiation all about. You cannot deny, if you have already sent the message, you cannot deny that you have not sent the message. Okay, for example, if Alice sends a message to the bank that she wants to transfer, say, 10 lakh rupees to Bob's account. Okay, so the bank in this case will not honor the transaction unless the bank is quite sure that it is Alice, in fact, who's making such a request, and then she wants to transfer an amount of 10 lakh to Bob's account. Okay, so some source authentication has to be there. Only then the bank will um, uh, honor such a transaction. Okay, so then only the bank, in case Alice denies later that she's made such a request, then only bank can prove such a case in a court of law if it is necessary. Okay, so that's what is non-repudiation all about. Okay, so there are two aspects in this. Okay, the first one is what is called deniability based on public key technology, based on public key, and the second is based on secret key. Okay, so plausible deniability based on public key technology. Okay, so what is this plausible deniability? Anybody knows, or have you heard of this? What is this plausible deniability all about? Plausible denying. Okay, so in the sense, in some organization, or in organizations, some big organizations, okay, so people, the senior officials, or people who are in that higher levels in the organization, okay, so they are denying or not ready to accept the responsibility for some actions which are being committed by their subordinates, or by the people in the lower levels of the organization. Okay, so they are telling that they don't know what has happened, or they are denying the knowledge, or they don't want to take the responsibility for some offense, or some, you can say, some actions which are being committed by others. So it could be due to multiple reasons. Either there is no evidence, proper evidence for it, or they are not aware of such a thing. Okay, they are not aware that such a thing has happened, or maybe they too have a hand in that, or they too are a part of that crime. Okay, or they are also, they don't want to confirm their participation. Okay, so they are also personally involved in it, so they are totally, denying such a aspect. So that is what is plausible deniability all about. Okay, so denying the knowledge or the responsibility for any action that is being committed by others in an organizational hierarchy. It could be due to multiple reasons. Okay, so out here, let's take the example of our same Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob. This is the deniability with public keys. Okay, so the question is, how can Alice send a message to Bob in such a way that Bob should know that it has come from Alice? But then Bob cannot prove to someone else that it came from Alice. Okay, so in such a case, that is, Alice is sending a message to Bob in such a way that Bob will know it is coming from Alice, but then Bob cannot prove it to someone else, to a third party, that it has come from Alice. Okay, so in that case, Alice can send a public key based reputable message. Let's take that message, denote that message as M. Okay, so M by doing certain things. Okay, so there are some notations given here. Okay, so you can see here the curly brackets are there, the square brackets are also there. So the curly brackets, we use curly brackets for denoting encryption, encrypting with a public key, encrypting with a public key. For example, if we write, okay, so yeah, and as a subscript, we write the name of the individual whose public key we are using. Okay, so if you write this way, so that means S is encrypted with Bob's public key. Okay, so S is encrypted with Bob's public key. That's what it means. Okay, encryption, encrypting with public key by denoting with a subscript the name of the individual whose public key we are using. We use curly brackets. Then you can see here square brackets are also being used. Okay, so square bracket is for signing something with a private key. Okay, your square brackets are used for signing something with a private key. Okay, signing something with a private key. Okay, so you can see here there is a square, the third one, the third message you can see here. So what it means is this S Bob, S Bob is being signed with Alice private key. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, so it's being signed with Alice public key, sorry, Alice private key. Okay, so that these are the notations. Okay, so let's see what are the steps involved in this. Okay, so Alice will pick a S is nothing but a secret key. Okay, Alice picks the secret key which she will use just for that particular message M. Okay, so Alice will pick a secret key S just for that particular message M. Then she will encrypt S with Bob's public key. That's what she's doing in the second step. That's when she gets this. Okay, a curly bracket S with a subscript Bob. Okay, so she encrypts that secret key with Bob's public key. Okay, then in the third step, so she will sign that secret key S Bob, okay, with her private key, getting what is being shown in the third step. Okay, then she will use that S to compute a MIC. MIC is an older terminology. So I think in the previous class, I told you another name for MIC is nothing but MAC, Message Authentication Code. Okay, so MIC is same as MAC code. It is an older terminology. MIC is an older terminology. So she will use that S, that secret key, to compute a message authentication code for that particular message M. Okay, so she might use some technique like DES or the data encryption standard or something to compute the message authentication code. Okay, so then after that, in the next step, what she does is she will send that MAC code. So that is this MIC. MIC is nothing but your MAC code along with this component, along with the signed component and the message. Everything will be sent to Bob, Alice to Bob, all these components. Okay, all the three components, your MAC and the signed private key along with the message will be sent to Bob. Okay, so MAC is nothing but you can say, I had already told you, also called tag, which is used to authenticate a message. Okay, so this is, so now Bob will know that the message came from Alice. Okay, came from Alice as a result of this MIC or MAC. Okay, because Alice has signed the encrypted secret, encrypted S. Okay, so because that signature is there, Bob will know that the message has come from Alice. Okay, but then Bob cannot prove it to someone else that the message has indeed been sent by, that particular message M has been sent by Alice. Okay, so he can prove that at some point Alice has sent some message using a key called S, but then it might not have been M. Okay, so in fact he cannot prove that that particular message has come from Alice. Okay, so once Bob has this particular quantity, that is uh, the third quantity, that is this one, the private key. Private key, he can construct any signed private key, you can say. He can construct any message he likes. And then he can also have an integrity code by using the secret key S. Okay, so that is what is plausible deniability with public key. Sending a message from Alice to Bob. So Bob will know that it has come from Alice due to the math, but then he cannot prove it somewhere else that it has in fact come from Alice. Okay, so that's what is plausible deniability all about. Okay, so next is non-repudiation with secret keys. Okay, this is with secret keys. Symmetric. Okay, so now let's say Alice is sending a message to Bob, and it has to be possible for Bob to prove later or to the judge or in a court of law that it was in fact Alice who herself has sent that particular message to Bob. Okay, so that means, yeah, I mean, Bob should be able to confirm to a third party that the message has come from Alice itself. Okay, so in such a case, I mean, our Bob can take the help of what is called a notary, a notarized agent. You can say notary or a notarized agent, which is represented as N. See, notarized agent N. Okay. So this notary agent will be trusted by Bob and maybe by the judge in case they are planning to go to a court of law to in fact prove that this particular transaction or message has come from Alice itself. Okay, so or it could be a threatening message or whatever which has come from Alice, which needs to be proved in a court of law. Okay, so we have a notary agent or notarized agent N trusted by both your Bob and the judge. Okay, so yeah, so the Alice, what will be doing is Alice will send the message. Okay, so this is for establishing a trust to a third party. So you should have a, I mean, so in what happens basically is Alice will send the message to the notary or the notarized agent, and as a result, the source authentication is being done. Okay, so Alice is sending a message to notary, and so your notary will be knowing that the message in fact has come from Alice. Okay, so Alice to notary. Okay, but it has to finally reach Bob. Okay, so the notarized agent will know that the message has come from Alice. Okay, so this notarized agent, okay, so we'll do some computation on that particular message and using the Alice's name, using some secret quantity. So that secret quantity is being mentioned as SN. So he's doing some manipulation. Okay, the message which has come from Alice, some manipulation is being done by the notarized agent. And the secret quantity is what is called S subscript N. And this SN will not be shared with anybody else. Okay, so the result of this computation, you can call it as a SN seal. Okay, seal on that message. Some sort of seal is being created on that particular message. Okay, so okay, so that's what. So the Alice sends message to notary. The notarized agent will create some sort of seal to that message by doing some sort of computation. Then after that, the message along with the seal will be sent to your Bob. Sent message, seal to Bob. Okay, so then again another aspect is Bob has to trust the notarized agent in this situation, because Bob, otherwise Bob cannot tell whether this particular seal, that is seal what is coming from notary, is genuine or not. Okay, so that also is another thing which has to be taken into consideration. Okay, so there are basically two things we can do to assure that Bob that the message was in fact coming from a genuine notarized agent. And therefore he can use that to prove in a court of law that that particular message has come from Alice. Okay, so what Bob can do is Bob and the notary, okay, can establish a shared key. See, these are the two things. I stopped writing. Okay, so this one. Okay, so the Bob and the notary or the notarized agent can establish a shared key, and the notary could use it to generate a you can say an MIC or an MAC, that is a message authentication code, for concatenation of the message which comes from Alice and the seal. Okay, so Bob can verify the MAC since he is the person who has shared it with the notary, and then you can always verify the validity of the seal. Means it is coming from a proper genuine notary agent itself. So that way Bob can verify the notarized agent also. Okay, so Bob can establish a shared key with the notarized agent, and then the notarized agent can use it to generate a message authentication code for the concatenation of Alice, the message, and the seal. Okay, so Bob can always verify the authentication code, that MAC code, because he is the person who shared the key with notary. Okay, so then he can always verify the validity of the seal and can make out that the seal which comes from notary is a valid one. Okay, then after receiving the message, you can send a request to the notary asking the notarized agent if the seal is genuine or not, and of course he can give a confirmation too, so a double checking can be done. Okay, so that's what. So this request you will have to include your Alice, the message, and the seal, the M seal what the notarized agent creates. Okay, so that is what is non-repudiation with secret key. Secret key in this case, in fact, Bob can prove in a court of law later that the message has in fact come from Alice itself. Okay, so in the previous case, you can verify that it has come from Alice, but then you cannot prove it somewhere else that it has in fact come from Alice. Okay, so this is non-repudiation with secret key. So these are the steps involved in it. Okay, so you are involving a notarized agent in between. So the notarized agent will be creating a seal, SN seal. So that is doing some computation. He creates a seal. Okay, so but then when you send that seal to Bob, so the Bob cannot be sure that it's coming from a genuine notarized agent. It can be Alice doing some manipulation and doing. So in which case you can have a verification for your notarized agent. How you can have a verification for a notarized agent is you can share a key with the notarized agent, or you can straight away ask the notarized agent. So you can share a key with him, and then using that key, he will send the seal, the message, and the MAC code back to the Bob. So Bob can verify the MAC code, that is message authentication code, because he was the person who shared the key with the notarized agent. And then he can verify that the notarized agent is a genuine person. He's a genuine person from a genuine place, and he can be trusted. So finally, he gets the message along with the seal and the MAC code. Okay, and which can be proved in a court of law. Okay, so that's regarding non-repudiation with secret keys. Okay, right. So that completes actually the first part of the third unit. So this is where we are right now. We have completed up to non-repudiation. Okay, so the various aspects. Okay, so the various aspects I have explained with examples. So specifically the Alice Bob email exchange example, all the various aspects. So that'll, I think, with that it will be easy for you to understand the concept. So rather than just telling what happens, the various steps involved, so everything was explained with an example. So it would be good if you too study in the same manner. So that will be easy for you to understand the concept and write for the exam. Okay, so the various aspects of privacy was discussed. So next we move on to understanding a security protocol, email security protocol called PGP. PGP stands for Pretty Good Privacy. Pretty Good Privacy. So this is what PGP is all about. Okay, because emails are one of the most popular way of sending the information. Okay, so whenever we have to send some sensitive email information through the internet, maybe some banking information or other things, so people will always be concerned about whether somebody sees the information whatever I am sending. Okay, so there is always a concern. So due to which we have two protocols. One is what is called PGP, and another one that we have in detail. Then we have one more called MIME that we'll see at the end. Okay, these are the two things, PGP and secure MIME, multiple internet mail extension protocol, and pretty good privacy protocol. So these are the two email security protocols or standards. Okay, important aspect, right? So first let's look into what exactly this PGP is all about. Are you all listening? Karthikeyan 263, there in class? He is not there. Okay. Other Karthikeyan is there in the class?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here, ma'am.
You are there. Okay, good. Okay. Jashwant, are you there? Jashwant? No. Jitendra Saini? Jitendra is there in class? No.
Yes.
Okay, Jitendra is there. Jashwant Parashar is not there. Okay. Ila, sleeping or listening?
Listening, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Ila. So let's start with PGP, a pretty good privacy protocol. So these are the two things to be discussed now. Okay, the email security protocols. Okay, so our PGP, quite smart, provides a lot of aspects. Okay, so this was a protocol invented by the person Phil Zimmermann. Okay, and it provides 4 aspects of security: privacy, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation. Now, when I tell all these terminologies, do you understand what are these? What is privacy all about? What is integrity all about? What is privacy all about? Confidentiality, encryption, and all those things comes as a part of it. Integrity, correctness, authentication. What is authentication? Simple example, your login ID and password. Non-repudiation, denying whether it's coming from a person or not. Okay, all these aspects, it takes care of all these. Okay, then your PGP, note down certain things, please. Okay, so PGP uses digital signature. Digital signature, which is a combination of hashing and public key encryption in order to provide integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation. And it uses a combination of secret key encryption and public key encryption to provide privacy. Okay, so therefore we can say that digital signature uses 1 hash function, 1 secret key, and 2 private public key pairs. See the power of it, how PGP works. Okay, it uses so many things, both your conventional cryptography, your asymmetric, symmetric, everything is being taken into consideration, and then it uses a lot of techniques to ensure email security. Okay, so it's an open source, freely available software package for email security, provides authentication through the use of digital signature, confidentiality through the use of symmetric block encryption. Okay, then it even compresses the text using what is called a zip algorithm, and email compatibility using Radix 64 encoding scheme. Some piece of information for you to remember how it does this. Okay, so we will look into how this is being done. Okay, so this is a general overview of PGP. So now you don't know what is this, you don't know what is this. So we look into one by one how this is being provided. Your privacy, integration, integrity, authentication, and or non-repudiation is being ensured while sending an email from the source to the destination. Okay, right. So now see the variety of techniques which are being used by your PGP. Okay, so it for for public key encryption, it makes use of your RSA, DSS, Diffie-Hellman key exchange. I hope we have discussed this. You remember this being discussed somewhere else. Then for symmetric key encryption, it uses triple DES IDEA CAST 128, and for authentication, it uses secure hash algorithm version 1, SHA 1. Okay, so these are the algorithms which are being supported by PGP. Algorithms which is being supported by PGP. Then these are the services which are being offered by PGP. I told in the I think 2 slides back I showed you. So now I'll tell you how, simply if we tell that PGP is offering authentication, it does not make any sense. How it provides authentication, how it provides confidentiality, then why this compression is being done, what is the email compatibility they are talking about. So these are the aspects which we should look into. Okay, so okay, so here you can see uh, from the algorithms which are being supported, it makes use of both asymmetric key encryption and symmetric key encryption as far as uh, PGP is concerned. So PGP uses public key to encrypt the message or to lock the message. Okay, lock the message using public key. Okay, or to, you can say, encrypt the message. It will use public key to encrypt the message, and then it will use private key to unlock or decrypt the message. Decrypt the message. Okay, so this is, it uses both public and private key. So it will use public key to lock or encrypt the message, and then it will use a private key to unlock. Okay, just a second. Hold on, please. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I'll just get back. Yeah. Right. Am I audible? Audible, right? Yes. Are you able to hear me? Can somebody confirm, please? Okay, fine. Right. Okay. So I just mentioned that our PGP, it uses a public key to encrypt or lock the message, and it uses the private key to unlock or decrypt the message. Okay. So you should send the public key to all your friends so that they can encrypt the sensitive message that you want to send to them. Okay. So when we have multiple recipients or whatever, so you have to share the public key with your friends. Okay. So that they can make use of that to decrypt it. So once the recipient receives the encrypted message, then you can use the private key to decrypt it. Okay. So then another thing to be noted is this PGP encryption will not encrypt the subject line of an email. Okay. So you should always make sure that no sensitive information is being put in the subject line. Okay. So subject line not encrypted. PGP will not encrypt subject line of an email. So make sure that you are not sending any sensitive information in the subject line. Okay, right. Then of course PGP has evolved and now it is open PGP standards are available. I'll tell you after telling how all these services are being offered by PGP. Okay, right. Okay, so first let's see regarding authentication. Okay, so authentication. What is authentication? So you need to validate whether it is true or whether it is really there or not. Really, okay. So many a times when we have to log in, you have to give your user ID and password. So that is basically an verification procedure or an authentication verification procedure which is being done. So same way for emails. Okay, so when you are telling, you are checking the authenticity of an email. So that is nothing but you are checking whether it has actually come from that particular person or not. Okay, so because authentication is very important, because there are people who will spoof the email or some spams, and all those things can cause a lot of confusion, inconvenience, and other things. So authentication is very much necessary as far as email is concerned. Okay, so how PGP provides authentication is what is being shown here in the diagram. So some short forms are mentioned here. So what those short forms stands for? Okay, so M is basically the message. Message. H is nothing but the hash function. Hash function. Okay, then what else is there? So KPA. So KPA is nothing but private key. This is this one. Okay, so private key of user A, which is being used in the public encryption process. I'll write it here. Private key of user A, okay, which is being used in the public encryption process. Okay, then what else is there? Okay, yes. Okay, this is what is meant for concatenation. Okay, so PUA. Okay, that is PU stands for public key of user A. PK stands for, KP stands for private key, PU stands for public key. So PUA, PUB will be there, KPA, KPB will be there. Okay, so that's what. Z inverse. Okay, so the Z is basically the compression function. This is nothing but the compression function. Compression function. So this is nothing but the decompression function. Decompression function. Okay, decompression function. Okay, so that's what. So anything else is there? Yeah, the public key encryption algorithm, whatever, EP. This is public key encryption algorithm. So corresponding counterpart is public key decryption algorithm. Public key decryption algorithm. Public key decryption algorithm. M is nothing but the message. I'm not writing it again and again. Okay. Concatenation, right, fine. So how this authentication is being provided. Okay, so did anyone draw this diagram on the notebook? That wouldn't have happened, right? Okay, so now how this works. Okay, so you can see here. So this is how PGP is providing authentication. That the email is coming from the particular person itself, verification. Okay, so the first step is the hash function. H, you can see the hash function H. So this is a hash function. Okay, I didn't mention that. Okay, hash function H will calculate the hash value of the message. Okay, so I had already told SHA algorithm is being used among the, when I listed out the various techniques which are being used. So, so for hashing purpose, SHA1, secure hash algorithm version 1, SHA algorithm will be used, and that will produce a hash value. Generally, it will be some 160 bit output hash value which will be produced. Okay, so then after that, using the sender's private key, that is by using your KPA. Okay, so by using the sender's private key, it will be encrypted. Okay, and that is what is called your digital signature. Okay, so that is what is called a digital signature. After that, the message will be appended to the signature. The message will be appended to the signature, and this process, whatever is happening, that is what is called signing the message. Signing of the message. Okay, so signing of the message. Okay, so after that, the message will be compressed. Okay, so because why we do the compression is to reduce the transmission overhead, and again to reduce the patterns, because I mean all these people who try to hack or look into all these, they will be looking for patterns. So when you are compressing, it will reduce the number of patterns, reduce the patterns that can happen in the particular message. Okay, then again the transmission overhead will also be reduced. So the message will be compressed to reduce the transmission overhead, and then only it will be sent to the receiver. Okay, so this is what appending signature and the message. Signature, S is nothing but a signature and the message. Okay, so that part is what is called a signing. Okay, so at the receiver's end, what happens is, okay, so the data is being decompressed. The data is being decompressed, and the message and the signature are being obtained. Okay, and after that, the signature will be decrypted. Signature will be decrypted using your PUA. This one, the public key decryption algorithm, DP, by using this. Okay, so it will be decrypted using the sender's public key, that is PUA, and then you get that hash value, and that you get that hash value. Okay, so the message will be again passed to a hash function, and its hash value is being calculated and obtained. Okay, so then after that, you compare the values. That is the value from the signature and another one from the recent output of your hash function. They are being compared. Okay, so if both are same, means the email is being actually sent from the known person. Okay, if both are different, means it cannot be authenticated, or authentication process fails. Okay, so that is what is that is how authentication is being done by your PGP. So I'll just repeat it once again. Let me. How many things being deleting everything is difficult. Fine, because I felt the diagram has become dirty now. Okay, so what basically happens is the hash function. The hash function is being computed. Okay, so the hash function H is being, it will calculate the hash value of the message. For hashing purpose, you use SHA-1, SHA-1 algorithm, and then using KPA, that is the sender's private key. You can see here. This one, the sender's private key. It will be encrypted, and then that is what is, you call it as a digital signature. Okay, so then the message is being appended to the signature, and then the message is being compressed to reduce the transmission overhead. Then at the receiver's end, okay, the data is being decompressed, and the message and the signature you will get. Okay, the signature will be then decrypted using the PUA, using sender's public key, and then you get the hash value. Okay, then the message is again passed through some hashing function, and you get the, and its hash value is calculated and obtained. Okay, so both the values, one you get from signature, another one from the hash function, both are computed, and if both are same means it comes from a authenticated source. So that's how the authentication is being done. So now coming to confidentiality. So confidentiality is also very, very important. Okay, so just like the real world confidentiality, you would have seen some packages labeled as confidential, which means that it's not meant for all the people. It's only for meant for some selected people who can see them. Okay, so same thing applies for your email confidentiality also. Okay, so only the sender and the receiver should be able to read the message. Okay, so that means the content has to be kept secret. And only those two can read it, and nobody else can read it. So how your PGP provides confidentiality? Okay, so confidentiality is being first, in this case, the message is being compressed. It will be first compressed, and a session key. A session key is being generated. This is the session key, KS. Session key is generated by your PGP, and that is used to encrypt the message through the symmetric encryption. Okay, so the session key itself gets encrypted through the public encryption, that is using your EP, using your KUB, that is your receiver's public key. Okay, so the session key itself is getting encrypted, that is EP, through your using your receiver's public key, that is KUB. Okay, so both the encrypted entities are now concatenated, and then that is being sent to the receiver. Okay, so the original message is being compressed. Okay, so even if anybody gets hold of it, they will not be able to read it. They can only read it if they have a session key KS. Okay, so that may not be possible. So then, you can make sure that your message is being completely safe. Okay, then at the receiver side, at this part, receiver's end, the encrypted session key is being decrypted using the using KPB. That is, KPB is nothing but your receiver's private key, and the message is being decrypted in order to obtain the session key. Okay, so then the message will be decompressed to obtain the original message, what is called your M. Okay, so the various algorithms I had already told. Yeah, all these algorithms here, specifically your RSA algorithm is being used for public key encryption. Okay, so that's how your confidentiality is being provided. But in practical, both these authentication and confidentiality services are being provided in parallel. Okay, so that's another thing to be noted. Okay, so next class I'll just show you how this happens simultaneously, and how a secure email is being sent from the source to the destination. Okay, right, so now I think I'll take the attendance.